Rick and Morty dropped yet another glance at Season 8 with a brief teaser trailer they released to YouTube and all of their other platforms, and I honestly could not be more excited for this upcoming season. It's nothing crazy, but it is something. We got a less than 1 minute short about Rick recasting Jerry through a bunch of different voice actors, which include both humans and aliens. This entire process is of course poking fun at the fact that they just had to recast the voices for Justin Roiland last season, which I'm surprised they didn't bring that up last season and they're finally doing it now, but I love the meta humor. As you may already know, they released the cold open for one of the Season 8 episodes that was in the early stages of production, and that already looked amazing, so that and this new trailer, I can't wait. After this unfortunate gap year for the mainstream Rick and Morty series, I specify mainstream because it wasn't a gap year for the legendary Rick and Morty anime that we, for some reason, got. I still don't know why. But moving into the beginning of 2025 has gotten me so excited for this new season for Rick and Morty because Season 7 was one of my personal favorites. A lot of people like to say that Rick and Morty is going downhill and that it has been ever since Seasons 3 or 4, but me personally, I think that the show only can go up from here. A lot of people say that Rick and Morty has been getting worse since Season 3, or that it's going downhill, or that it'll never reach its peak again. And while I agree that it might not ever be as popular as it once was, I do not think by any means that the show is getting worse over time. Season 6 and 7 were both absolutely amazing, and while they did have a few low points, I'm looking at you, Season 7's Rise of the Number Archons, the movie. We do not ever need to revisit that ever again. That was terrible. But other than that, the new seasons have been absolutely amazing in my opinion. I never quite understood it when people said that Seasons 1 and 2 were the best seasons of Rick and Morty and that they were the good old days, because in my opinion, Seasons 3, 7, 6, and even 4 are just the better seasons. I'm obviously skipping over Season 5 while mentioning all these great seasons because Season 5 did have some pretty solid episodes. It also had a lot of really bad ones too, though. We unfortunately cannot forget the giant incest baby. The fact that that sentence exists is already ridiculous, but the fact that it showed up more than once in the show is just completely unspeakable. Seasons 1 and 2 of Rick and Morty were just very different, and I understand liking something that's different. I just prefer the new stuff. I like the more witty banter and nuanced stories, as opposed to just the dry, raunchy comedy and interesting animation style that Season 1 really flaunted. But to each their own. If you think that the beginning of Rick and Morty was its absolute peak and that the newer seasons have just been not so good, I understand that that's your opinion, I respect that, but me personally, I cannot wait for this next season. And I know I'm not entirely alone on that opinion because the show got renewed again this year. So now we have episodes up until Season 12 guaranteed. Originally we were guaranteed up until Season 10, now it's Season 12. So at the very least, we have 40 more episodes of Rick and Morty. At the very least. I hope not, but that's a minimum. However, what Rick and Morty is failing at is live viewership. Over the past few years, its live viewership has fallen off quite significantly. When Season 4 was coming out live, it averaged 1.52 million live viewers per episode. Then in Season 5, that fell to 0.96 million, and then in Season 6, 0.57. That drop-off is really steep, and I couldn't find any data about the Season 7 live viewership, but this data is not a good indicator of Rick and Morty's popularity. Although this statistic can be kind of daunting for the future of Rick and Morty, live viewership is not the only thing that the show is worried about. While it is an obvious truth that the more people that watch the show live will help the show better, just help its popularity overall, the show is mostly watched while streaming, not while live. Because the fact of the matter is, as time goes on, less and less people are willing to pay for cable TV if they only want to watch one show. If you only want to watch Rick and Morty on Adult Swim, you don't want to pay for the entire package of Adult Swim and all the other networks that come with that, when you could just watch Rick and Morty a few months later when it all appears on streaming. While it is true that the more people who watch the show live would help the show, most people just watch the show through streaming. They don't want to pay for an entire cable package just to watch one show, and I don't either. And as every year goes by, streaming just becomes more and more accessible, and watching TV live is just less and less realistic. So yeah, just wait a few months after the season airs and watch it all on Max. The fact of the matter is, Rick and Morty still has a massive fan base. It's full of diehard fans and people who just enjoy the show casually. I won't lie to you and say that the Rick and Morty fan base has actually grown stronger in these past few years, because in all reality, it hasn't. The show will never be as popular as it once was, because the Szechuan sauce era was truly unmatchable.
What sauce? I'm Pickle Rick!
It was also unrevisitable. We don't really want to go back to that time. But the fact that the show keeps getting renewed and keeps getting all of this attention put into it through Adult Swim means that it's making enough money for it to be prioritized this seriously. The reason my faith in season 8 is so high is because season 7 exceeded every possible expectation in my mind. Other than, of course, again, that was awful. Why was that ever a good idea in anyone's mind? But season 7 also brought us the banger episodes Unmortricken and Fear No Mort, which in my opinion are top 10 episodes in the entire show, undoubtedly. Not even close. Unmortricken is in my top 5, Fear No Mort is easily in my top 10. Those two episodes are so freaking amazing. Not as many people enjoy this season as much as I do, but I think that episodes like The Jurek Trap and Mort Ragnarok are just classics for the show, and then episodes like That's a Morte and Air Force Wong are emotional powerhouses that the show consistently succeeds with, which make the whole season just that much stronger. And if season 8 produces a single episode that is somewhat close to the highs of Unmortricken and Fear No Mort, we are going to be A-okay. Because if we get any episodes on that level of quality again, I will be ecstatic. The show has undergone a lot of creative changes in these past few years, and for a lot of people that's very worrying. I mean, things like the Justin Roiland situation seemed to be very dangerous for Rick and Morty and its reputation and its just status as a show in general. But in my opinion, all of these changes have just been for the best. This show has only gone up. It's unfortunate for Rick and Morty because its fan base has been so toxic in the past that it has also attracted a lot of haters, a lot of people who want to find the weaknesses of the show and bring them to light and say that this is the reason the show is going downhill. And I don't blame them, because the show has had some terrible moments in terms of its status in the pop culture world. And I feel bad for the people who have been pushed away from Rick and Morty because of its awful fan base at times. I do think that most of the toxic fan base has kind of dissipated, especially since Justin Roiland left and all those people thought that Justin Roiland was Rick and Morty's savior, and now that he's gone, the show will be terrible, when in fact, quite the opposite happened. The show has just only gotten better. And the show obviously thinks the same thing for itself, otherwise they wouldn't be making fun of the fact that they had to recast the main two characters of the show, which we see in this little teaser trailer we just got. This teaser is obviously the show saying, we don't care what you guys think of what has happened for the show's past. This is the show's future, and we will continue to do what we need to do to make the show the way we want to. Okay, the glaze has gotten out of hand. I'm just trailing at this point. I'm not saying a whole lot of things that are productive. So let's just talk about what I expect to happen in Season 8 in terms of specific story movements. I think above all else, we will get much more development for Rick's character. In the recent seasons, since the introduction of Dr. Wong, Rick's character has changed quite drastically, especially with episodes like Analyze Piss, Unmortricken, and the Fear Hole episode. Even though last season, Evil Morty told us all how badly he wants to be left alone, he will undoubtedly make an appearance this season. I am so sure of that fact. Just because he's one of those recurring characters, kind of like Space Beth. He's just a little bit more rare, but I think he's going to continue to show up every now and then. Speaking of Space Beth, she will absolutely show up multiple times. That's not a shocking revolution. She ends up showing up multiple times per season at this point, so expect to see her a few times. When it comes to Mr. Poopy Butthole, I think that we might see him, but probably not. Last season, we saw quite a bit of him compared to the other seasons with him. He's normally not in it at all, so I think an entire episode about him is about his limit for a little while. But a Mr. I think we will see is Mr. Nimbus, who I would love to see. I love the dude. He's so quirky, odd, just the antithesis of Rick, so seeing him in an episode would be great. Him and Rick working together would be something I would just really, really enjoy. Especially since his appearance in Analyze Piss was just so brief. I want an actual episode with Mr. Nimbus again, because Season 5, Episode 1 is one of the most underrated episodes, and it's primarily because of Mr. Nimbus. Other than characters we already know, I think we'll get a new character that Morty will fall in love with, because he hasn't had a lasting love interest in quite some time, not since Season 5, Episode 1 with the disappearance of Jessica. We also obviously got the episode with Planetina, but I'm hoping that a character will appear that Morty will fall in love with for a longer period of time than just 10 minutes of screen time. On the page of relationships, I think we'll get some deeper exploration between Jerry and Beth, and maybe even Jerry, Beth, and Space Beth, because we have not forgotten that whole episode. It was funny, but it sure was uncomfortable. And while this teaser is being a little bit meta by poking fun at the Justin Roiland situation, I hope we also get a reference to the failure of the anime for Rick and Morty, because that situation just needs to be addressed. We don't have an official release date for season 8 yet, but I can assume that it's going to be in the earlier parts of 2025, especially since this teaser was Christmas themed. And since it's been a full year of no content for Rick and Morty, I see no reason why they would have to push it back to the normal time of a Rick and Morty release date, which is normally in fall or like August. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you're looking forward to Rick and Morty season 8 as much as I am, because I cannot understate my excitement. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to hit the like button and comment down below what you think is going to happen in season 8 of Rick and Morty. Make sure you subscribe for more videos just like this, and I'll see you in the next one.